What's the most out-of-touch thing you've heard a person say?
Aren't you a bit too old to have a grandma? A neighbor when I told her my grandma just passed away.
Wish I could have seen her face if you'd said, well, as of yesterday I guess I am.
I actually said, well, I don't have one anymore, and she didn't really react. Naturally, I'm still upset. It still hurts. And this woman still doesn't get it. I avoid her now.
When a guy on AITA was upset his wife was making him babysit their infant too much, so he and his mom told her there'd be no more going out. He said him going out all the time was different than her going out, and when asked for clarification he said because she's better at changing diapers and getting the baby to sleep. It truly blows my mind that there are morons out there who think taking care of their own children is babysitting. Had a friend in dental school who grew up in the rich suburbs north of Detroit. We were talking about traveling. She was going to Thailand for spring break, and she said, I'd be surprised if most people hadn't traveled to at least 20 countries. I told her I'd be surprised if most people had ever left the US at all. Edit. For all those wondering, she is from Bloomfield Hills.
To be rich enough to travel to at least 20 countries.
Africa is a country. In front of an Ethiopian who insisted that Africa is a continent.
This and those puzzled people who meet African immigrants and wonder if they are hungry, thirsty or are surprised, impressed that they know what civilization is.
The most unusual thing I heard from my friend is that he seriously thinks that menstruation doesn't exist.
Recently got a new job that paid double what I used to make. When I resigned, my former boss told me money isn't everything lol. I was only making minimum wage before.
As a friend once said, money can't buy happiness, but I find that it makes misery so much more comfortable.
You have no right to be upset. He didn't touch you. My mom said this to me one day after it was revealed my dad had been abusing my brothers.
That allowing ice fishing shacks would then give rise to prostitution.
I live in a place where ice fishing is impossible, and prostitution is legal. I don't understand how these two things could be linked.
I used to work for a minor aristocrat. Some advice he gave out, in absolute sincerity, over the years. Asterisk, don't take out a mortgage, whatever you do. Terrible things. You'll end up paying a lot more for your house, you know. Asterisk, the thing about a Bentley is that you have to have a crap car too. I mean, there are times when a Bentley just isn't appropriate and what you need is a crap car. Crap car later turned out to be an expensive Alfa Romeo, and a Bentley to be several Bentleys. Asterisk, recommending the Ritz in London as a place for regular after-work drinks. Asterisk, I don't know how anyone survives on their company salary alone. His salary was more than £300,000, $500,000 United States dollars, a year. Who is your chocolatier?
Okay. I need to know the context for this one, if you'd care to share it.
I was at an open house looking for a new property and two women were discussing their favorite restaurants. One asked this question and I remembered that some people just live such different lives. Sort of tangential. Back in college the entire class had a 10-minute argument with one student who didn't understand that not every country has citizenship by birth laws like the US does. The professor held off jumping in for about 5 minutes to watch us explain it to her but couldn't take it anymore and figured the student would finally believe it when she said it. Nope, she started arguing with the professor too. The total out-of-touch part came when she finally conceded with, well, that's stupid. They should just do things the way we do them here.
Wow, I was unaware of that. I also wouldn't argue with people telling me that though either.
I wish we could make work from home possible for our business, but unfortunately we cannot, said in a meeting over Zoom, poolside, while working from home.
Had a millionaire tell me it was so great that even though we could all be making much more than we were at our non-profit, we stayed for the kids because who needs money when your job is rewarding? Plot twist, he was a board member who controlled our salaries. I was barely making enough to SCRP by. Edit, whoa, this blew up lol. I know there is a lot of hate for non-profits here, but I do want to clarify that for the most part one truly loved the people and kids I worked with, and the organization itself was a community staple that did a lot of good with the minimal funds we had. And we did have some awesome board members. But others were a bit out of touch, this being the worst example, haha.
That sentiment is everywhere in non-profits, sadly.
Yep, the biggest reason I now work in the corporate sector lol.
Someone I know sadly always brags about her $500K flat, then tries to crowdfund for her cat's bills.
Depending upon where you live, that flat could be beautiful or a tiny hole.
I was working at a school for the kids of the 1% and we were discussing what a millionaire was. One example I gave was owning property or assets worth $1 million or over, and the kid replied, "Oh, so everyone is a millionaire then?"
Everyone equals all of the classmates. Maybe not the teacher.
Suggested someone take the bus to save on gas prices. They responded, "EW, do you know what kind of people take the bus?" "Yeah, working class people. And also me."
He told me, as long as you're dating someone better looking than you, you're going to have to get used to me being hit on or having something on the side. You're going to have to date an ugly guy for that loyalty poo.
Of all the insanity of this quote, the thing that gets me is the casual equating of something that cannot be controlled, me being hit on, with the opposite, me having someone on the side. It's like, look, as long as we live in an area with a lot of flowers, sometimes I'm going to get allergies or murder people.
I was telling my boss how proud I was my husband got a new job, he's legally blind, and she proceeds to tell me that she wishes she had a disability so she could just get handed a job. Had to walk away F4 on that one.
I could arrange that, bitch.
I grew up super poor. Like going days without eating kinda poor. All because my mom legit thought welfare was only for unwed black mothers. She never called anybody to confirm that, never asked around. She wouldn't apply for reduced school lunches either because that was ghetto. Imagine being so racist and buying into the welfare queen lie so hard that you let your own children starve.
Anyone calling themselves an entrepreneur while pitching an MLM.
Why are you still living at home at 23? Just buy a house. Coming from someone whose parents bought her a house.
Have a friend whose wealthy parents paid for his schooling, his rent, his startup, his car, and his down payment. He asked when we were finally going to buy a house because renting is such a waste of money.
Why don't you live on disability? As a response to disabled people complaining about local government cutting back programs designed for making gainful employment accessible.
I work with disabled adults. This is a bigger problem than most people realize.
The company owes you nothing, you owe the company everything. My boss after I worked for 4 years in the company.
I used to work for a guy who owned a temporary employment agency. I once watched him berate his two $7 an hour receptionists because his monthly income from the business had dropped from $40,000 to $25,000, and they had nothing whatsoever to do with how much money the business made. They were effing receptionists.
If you are depressed, just go to Tulum and take a break, vibe high. Like, bitch, that is not how depression works, and yeah, I will just leave all my responsibilities just for randomly deciding going to vacations. When I told her that's not the way how depression works, she said, "You are just too pessimistic. Every time I feel depressed I do this." I asked how she knew she was depressed, and she answered, "Well, the last time I had depression was because I cried because my dad didn't want to take me to Paris for a year. I wanted to die in that moment."
I don't know why you would go to a community college when you can go to a university. Said by a high school guidance counselor giving a lecture on college admissions essays and applications in my senior app English class after I asked naively if there's anything I had to do for community college. Turns out I had other classmates in the same boat who wanted to know too but felt too embarrassed to ask. Anyways, I went to community college to get my prerequisites out of the way and got my associate's degree. Then transferred into university for a competitive nursing program. I saved money from those first 2 years in community college, didn't get a loan until I got into uni. F that guidance counselor.
Such bad advice. I went to a school in a wealthy area and the guidance counselor would tell us to go to community college, get straight A's and an automatic acceptance into the local Ivy League school. If you can get the grades, it really is the best call financially.
External things don't affect your mental health. It is all about you.
Seeing my girlfriend killed didn't affect me because it was an external thing. My PTSD is all me.
A year ago we were putting offers on houses, and our budget was low compared to what was available, and the realtor would ask, "Well, can't your parents help pitch in?" Lol, which makes me think a lot of people are lucky enough for their parents to help with the home buying process, but yeah, not us.
Going through that now. Everyone in that industry thinks we could get a gift. Bitch, even if they died, I wouldn't get anything from my parents. Sorry. It's frustrating.
I don't understand why you bother renting an apartment. Just buy a house. My dad, who hadn't purchased a house since 1993.
My advice to my younger colleagues is to buy a house in the year 2000, like I did. They don't seem to appreciate it. Kids these days. Edit. Also more free advice, buy Apple stock in the 1980s. Trust me on this.
Anytime someone says, "Why did they throw that away?" It could have been donated to a homeless person. When referring to extremely expired or broken items. Edit to fix typo, open mouth face running dash.
While cleaning out my parents' house before they moved, I emptied their fridge and pantry and separated out the expired stuff. My dad went through and gathered most of the food into a donation box, and then scooped in all the expired food as well. Some of this stuff was years expired and even open. My partner and I kept trying to remove it, and eventually it came down to an argument where my dad insisted that the homeless would take whatever they could get. My dad had never had the experience of going hungry, while my partner had volunteered at food banks in the past. He was pissed that my dad was treating homeless people as less than human and insisting they should be grateful to eat his garbage. Once my parents had left, I donated the expired food to the garbage can. If my dad was so concerned about wasting it, he should have either used it or donated it years ago when it was still safe to eat.
I cannot understand why there are dumb people that do not wish to become more wealthy and just enroll in insert generic top university. Referring to people that are content with their jobs and do not wish to change their career path for the sole sake of money and status. Also assuming of course everybody has money and time for that.
My dad just died about a month ago. My company gave me 4 days unpaid off. I was really close to my father, so this was hard for me to deal with. My paycheck was enough to pay bills, but I had to buy my groceries on credit card to get by. My boss's brother-in-law died the following week. All he talks about is how hard this is on his wife. Between the stress of her brother dying, and the reno on their $1 million cabin, he's taking his whole family to Hawaii for 10 days this month to try to deal with their grief. Meanwhile, I'm pricing urns out on Amazon to try to save money, trying to sell my dad's tools to help my mom, working full-time and taking care of a toddler.
I'm so sorry for your loss. Hang in there. Also, your boss is a DK.
Thank you. I just thought it was crazy that the staff I work with here went together, got me a sympathy card and $175 gas card so I would have money to go see my mom. My boss didn't even get me a card. I've been here for 14 years. My dad is a customer here. He bought his truck and did all his service work here.
My boss told me that the leasing of our company car is ending and I could buy it for really cheap if I want it. Really cheap meant 20 euros for him. He pays me 750 euros a month. I am still in training, that's why it's so little. And I live on my own and have a car. So basically I'd have to work about 2 years for this really cheap car without spending a cent on anything.
To preface for all the people trying to give me mortgage advice from the US, I live in Canada and our mortgage rules are extremely different. Thank you for the suggestions, but you cannot expect your home buying methods to work in a different country. Me conversing with a patient about the housing market when I was like 22. Me, houses are so expensive it's going to be difficult to get into the market in a few years. This was some years ago. Patient whose husband inherited a lot of money and a business and now they're wealthy AF. Rent is the same as a mortgage though. Me, it's the down payment we need. Patient, why don't you just get your parents to give you the down payment? That's what ours did and we pay them back. Me, my dad is dead and my mum has a rare illness that placed her on long-term disability. Patient, well, me, not everybody has the same opportunities in life. Patient. Edit, I am 27 now and have a down payment, but to no surprise, the houses within a 1 to 1.5 hour radius in all directions of me are selling for 1 to 1.5 million lol. As a result, interviewing for jobs 2.5 hours away where the market is nice and affordable.
If you can't afford gas, buy an electric vehicle.
Ha ha ha, this one kills me. Like, yeah, you know what, Jim, I can't afford the $100 of gas, I better go buy a $60,000 plus electric vehicle. My mom once told me in the 60s, race didn't exist yet. Haven't really begun to unpack that one.
A woman told me that having to show her Costco membership card upon entering the building was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And she was dead serious. I was on my 6th day of a migraine and would love to have the worst event of my life to have been showing a membership card.
4 of my millennials friends and I rented a house from a boomer some years ago. After signing the lease, boomer turns to us and asks why we aren't buying homes and flipping them like he does. This was before the mega boom in housing prices, and we explained that we wouldn't be renting if we had buying house money.
I've met many people that thought the US government paid immigrants a boatload of money when they first moved to the US, and that's how they could afford to own convenience stores and stuff. It's literally the exact opposite. People spend an insane amount of money to get here. More often than not, it's almost everything they have.
It's one banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10.
I don't want my taxes going to poor people who can't help themselves. Said by a 14 whose parents were fairly wealthy. I'm pretty sure the 14-year-old was not paying taxes. Gal Gadot and friends singing Imagine during the first few days of lockdown is up there.
Imagine no possessions. Said in their multi-million-dollar mansions. Elton John made fun of John and Yoko for the song John and Yoko Were As Bad As Me when it came to shopping. The various apartments they owned in the Dakota in New York City were so full of priceless artworks, antiques and clothes that I once sent them a card, rewriting the lyrics to Imagine 6 apartments. It isn't hard to do. One is full of fur coats, another's full of shoes.
Why don't you just buy a house? What an absolutely terrific idea. Can't believe I didn't think of that. Let's see, the cheapest house in my neighborhood is currently $335,000 and has plumbing and wiring left over from the 1970s, no central heating, mold, foundation problems, a roof that needs replacing, the oldest water heater I've ever seen in my life, a gopher issue, bad windows, a terrible location with a driveway that opens up right onto one of the busiest streets in town, and the smallest backyard ever. The bank won't approve us for a loan on the mortgage because they think we can't pay it, even though we pay $200 more than it a month in rent even after the fees. That's that idea in the garbage. What other brilliant fixes do you have for my life? Edit, to any DUMBF who tells me to just move out to the country. Shut up. The town we live in has a sub-20K population. This is just what it's like everywhere within 15 miles of the large metro area we live near. I'm not moving a half hour or more from all-out friends and family, and I shouldn't have to. Please keep your terrible takes out of my inbox.
Kim Kardashian being on a high horse saying women need to get up and go work to survive. She got famous for getting F-ed on video. Sigh.
She could have worded it in a way that would almost seem sincere or helpful, yet decided to throw a "get your effing ass up and work" at her viewers. It seems so weird coming from someone born into a rich family with high society connections and a mum who paved her daughter's way to success from the beginning.
Get your ass up and go to work, said the socialite born into money that got famous by lying on her back. Honestly, F the Kardashians.
We should never raise taxes on the rich. I'm not used to sacrificing things, so if you make me take only one vacation a year, it would be worse than if you made a poor person have less. Because they are used to not having things already. Student in a college finance course.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.